What up, everybody? You're now tuned into the true definition of a sports fanatic podcast with Brandon Lampley, your humble host. And we got a lot to talk about today. Got some NFL stories. We'll talk about Josh Rosen. Who else? Oh, got to talk about my man Telvin Smith. I can't believe he's going to sit out the entire season. And I hope everything's all right with him. These NBA playoffs have been absolutely ridiculous. The shot that Kawhi hit the other night, where it bounced 4 times. I went to the kitchen, got a sandwich, came back, and the ball was still bouncing on the rim, and it finally went in. And New York fans, I am praying for you guys, because it hasn't been a good month for you. From the Giants to now the Knicks losing the number 1 pick to the Jets firing their GM. What is going on in NY? First things first, Papa freaks all the honeys, dummies, Playboy bunnies, those wanting money. Hey. Okay, that's not what we here to talk about, but if anybody could tell me the artist and the name of the song that rap line is from, you can win free napkins from McDonald's. Straight up, no lie. But first thing we're going to talk about today, I have to talk about Josh Rosen, the new Miami Dolphins quarterback. Now, I called Kyler Murray to the Cardinals a while ago. It was too much talking. They were saying the Cardinals were saying too many things that let me know that they were high on Kyler Murray. Because when you have to constantly reiterate in the media that Josh Rosen was your guy, that Cliff Kingsbury likes him, likes his game, and they were talking too much, man. And then I told you the day before the draft, they said that they were emphatically not drafting Kyler Murray. I said, oh, the fix is in. They're drafting Kyler Murray. Because don't talk about it, be about it. And they were doing too much talking. So Josh has handled it well. Come on, we're talking about a kid, man. And people don't think about the aspect of athletes where they pretty much get treated like pieces of property. Like, I just traded you to Miami for an end table and an ottoman to be named later. Like, seriously. And you don't think these guys have feelings? No, I think it was Steve Smith, the former Carolina Panther and a Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, went off on Josh Rosen talking about he needs to compete and, don't be soft. But, number one, Steve, everybody's not cut from the old school cloth. That's first and foremost. And all of that compete crap, man, get out of here with that. Nobody wants to hear that. The fix was in, man. Come on. It was all but over. Josh saw it. The Cardinals knew it. Kingsbury had already wanted it. So there was nothing else to talk about at that point. I'm sure his camp, they already knew. They were in discussions with the Cardinals like, I'm sure Josh Rosen's people was like, they drafted Kyler. Ain't no doubt about it. I've been hearing about it. They're going to draft Kyler Murray. But now that all of that is over, they drafted Kyler and they traded Josh Rosen to the Miami Dolphins during the draft. And Josh just said all the right things. He's done all the right things. He was back in Arizona, still his obligations he has to that city and that town. He's been doing all the right things and seems to be a good kid. Now, leading up to the draft last year, they talked about his attitude or him being arrogant and his comparisons with Aaron Rodgers. And, that's what Aaron is. Aaron is arrogant, and that's what they feel about Josh. But I felt like Josh was the best quarterback in the draft last year, and Josh would have been the best quarterback in the draft this year. So the Miami Dolphins came out, looking good in this. Definitely. I think they got their guy of the future. And you got him at a ridiculously cheap price. So now that you've been brought up to speed on what transpired between Josh Rosen, the Cardinals, and the Miami Dolphins, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals GM, Steve Keim. Now, if I play for you, you're my general manager, and you come out, you were out in the media talking about how I'm your guy of the future, or whatever, and I'm supposed to be your dude. You trade me away to the Miami Dolphins and I don't hear nothing from you. Absolutely nothing. No phone call, no text, no carrier pigeon, no two-way page, no smoke signal, no telegram, nothing. That's bad business, man. That is absolutely bad business. It takes nothing for you to pick up the phone like a man and call and talk to Josh Rosen. And you could give him coach speak. Write down whatever you're going to say and respond from his questions or whatever he has to say from there. Because I'm sure you wouldn't have got on the phone with him and he would have been all emotional to cuss you out or call you all kind of names. He would say, well, sir, I appreciate it. Thank you for the time. It's easy. Matter of fact, you call him up. All you got to do is say, hey, Josh, I just want to let you know we're trading you to the Miami Dolphins. I appreciate everything you've done for this organization and for carrying yourself in a manner in which, we're proud to have had you as a Cardinal. But at this point, we're moving forward, and we wish you the best of luck in the future. And I'm sure Josh's response was, he's like, well, thanks, Steve. I appreciate the time here. Much luck to you guys in the future. And that's it. That's easy, man. That's easy. But he hasn't even heard from this guy. That's piss poor. Now we're going to move on to New York. Concrete jungle where apparently dreams are not made of, and there are things that you can't do there. Overall, it has not been a good month to be a New York fan, sports fan, period. You had the Giants draft Daniel Jones as your replacement for Eli Manning. Then you had last night, the New York Knicks didn't get the number 1 pick for the rights to draft Zion Williamson. So that's a gut punch. And then this morning, the Jets announced that they fired their GM, Mike Maccagnan. Now, supposedly him and new head coach Adam Gase, they've been at odds, I guess, since Gase got hired. And one of the things that was highlighted is Gase didn't like the contract that they gave Le'Veon Bell. He likes the player, but he just doesn't like the money that they gave him. And just the position, really, it didn't matter who the running back was. He didn't want to give that position that much money. And then he didn't like the contract that was given to C.J. Mosley. Felt like it was too much money. He had another player, I think it was center Matt Paradis. He wanted to sign him, but Maccagnan didn't want to sign him. He ended up signing with the Carolina Panthers. So you got two guys who are supposed to be running the team who are at odds and disagree with one another. So as the owner, somebody's got to go, of course. So I'm sure he did his due diligence, the CEO, Christopher Johnson, and he decided that Maccagnan has got to go. Now, I understand, firing Mike Maccagnan. I got it because I think in his tenure with Todd Bowles, who they fired, he's 24-40. And it hasn't been a good stretch for him in New York. So I get it. But to do it now is terrible. Why? Why did you let him oversee the draft process? Why did you let him oversee free agency? Why even let him get this far? You should have fired him when you fired Todd Bowles. But that is the ineptitude of New York sports franchises right now. So now they've promoted not promoted, but they gave Adam Gase, he's basically the acting GM now. So he's going to be making the decisions until they hire a new GM. Now, when they hired this new GM, if I'm that GM, I got to have power over the 53-man roster. I have to be able to do that because I want to bring in, of course, Adam Gase is going to have his say, but I need that control because without it, you're just a glorified advisor. That's basically what you are. So I talked about it before. I don't think the Jets should have signed Adam Gase to be their head coach. I don't think he's a good coach. There were more qualified candidates out there. And for you to settle on Adam Gase, so Jets fans should have been upset then, but it is what it is. For them to fire Mike Maccagnan now, what happened? Did something happen? Because obviously you were comfortable up until a certain point to keep him. Like something, they must have got into it, something happened. Maybe blows were thrown. Somebody got elbows dropped on their head. Who knows? An altercation took place. But this is just not a good look for the New York Jets. Incompetent, to say the least. Now I'm going to stay in the NFL. I'm going to talk about my Jacksonville Jaguars. I have to talk about our weak side linebacker, Telvin Smith. Telvin announced last week that he's stepping away from the game and he won't be playing this upcoming 2019 football season. Says he has to get some things in order with family and his mental health. And, I wish him all the best. Of course, I wish he was playing, but, hey, if you have to step away, life is tough, man. Even being a millionaire playing a kid's game, you still have issues. No matter the amount of worldly possessions you have, no matter how much money you have, insecurities, mental issues, health, all those things, there's nothing that money or worldly possessions can solve. So Telvin has to figure those things out. Now, just to give you an idea of what Telvin Smith meant to the Jaguars, he's one of only 13 players in NFL history to record 100-plus tackles in each of their first 5 seasons. And he's also the only player with 100 tackles, 2 interceptions, and a fumble recovery in each of his last 3 seasons. Now, there have only been 15 other players to record 100 tackles, 2 picks, and 1 fumble. But those other 15 players have done it once in the last 3 years. Telvin has done it 3 years straight. Now, Telvin had a down year last year. He did. He led the team in tackles, but I think he led the league in missed tackles. Don't quote me on that. Not 100% sure, but I think he led the league in missed tackles. If he didn't lead the league, he was up there close to the top because he missed a lot of tackles. And he had a shoulder injury last year. And just overall for our team, it just wasn't a good year last year. But man, for Telvin to just step away from the game, it was, it was sudden. Now, one thing I did dislike once he had made his announcement was a lot of the fans. Dude, I don't care how much money you spend. I don't care how many season tickets you have, how long you've been a season ticket holder, how much memorabilia you buy, how emotionally invested you are in the team. Telvin doesn't play for you. Telvin plays for himself. Him and every other player. They play for themselves, not you. So Telvin doesn't owe you anything. Now, the only problem I've had with Telvin, during this whole process was how he's communicated with the Jaguars. Our head coach, Doug Marrone, when asked about Telvin and the situation, he said that I found out the same way you guys found out. When he put it on Instagram, that's when he found out. So that right there I don't like. I mean, come on, this is your employer. Hit him up, tell him something, man. Throw him a bone, give him something, man. I mean, basically what Telvin has done is he's no-called, no-showed for a couple of months. I mean, after the first or second no-call, no-show, they have grounds to fire you in the working world, of course. But it makes you wonder about the disconnect between the organization and Telvin and why he hasn't talked to them. I mean, is he not comfortable with them? Did he have a falling out with, our Tom Coughlin? Did he have issue with Doug Marrone or Dave Caldwell or the owner, Shad Khan? I mean, who knows? But to not communicate anything and your agent has been ridiculously tight-lipped about the situation, there's clearly a disconnect. Now, I read an article today by Hayes Carline on 1010xl.com. Covers the Jaguars. He does a pretty good job. And also he does a good job on the radio as well. But Hayes, basically, his article is basically talking about you need to wrap your mind around the idea of Telvin Smith never playing for the Jaguars ever again. and he makes some good points. Says, dude, the disconnect between him and the front office, I mean, how will they handle him going forward? They haven't heard from him, only on social media. I mean, so that is disrespect in itself. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I see them heading for a divorce, myself. But who knows? And there's no trade partners. There's in no scenario where I can see a team taking on his contract, especially with his current situation and him not playing this year. But I will say this. Jaguars knew something was up. I don't care what nobody says. They knew something was going on because they have drafted and or signed, I think, at least 5 or 6 linebackers. You took a linebacker in the 3rd round when it wasn't a need. So that right there in itself tells me that they knew something was up. Now, of course, who knows, if Telvin has communicated with them, over the last couple of days or the last week or so, don't know. But Jaguars knew something was up way before he came out and said he wasn't playing this year. Because you don't go through all those linebackers. You don't draft a linebacker in the 3rd round when there were other position needs on the board. They could have took a wide receiver. Our wide receiver position sucks. We probably have the worst receiving core in the entire NFL. Now, okay, you're going to get Marquise Lee back, and, you hope he's going to be healthy. And you hope Dede Westbrook takes another step forward and develops into, one of the top receivers in the league. You hope DJ Chark is going to take another step forward and be serviceable. Hopefully, Keelan Cole gets over the yips and stop coughing up the doggone football like he has a cold. And you got free agent wide receiver Chris Conley from the Chiefs. But, dude, we could have used another receiver, and there were plenty of receivers on the board at that time. But what did they do? They took a linebacker, a guy who, to me, I watched some of his film. The dude can play. Quincy Williams can play. He's the little brother of Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle from Alabama that went 3rd overall to the Jets. Dude can play. And I see him. He might not start the season, but eventually he's going to take over that weak side linebacker position. Or they might move Miles Jack there. Who knows? And put Jake Ryan in the middle. But the Jaguars knew something was up. Now we're going to switch it up. We're going to the NBA. Last night was the NBA draft lottery. And the hits just keep coming for New York. The New York Knicks, they had a 15% chance, 14% chance to get the number 1 pick. And he ended up with number 3. So that means you're either getting Ja Morant or you're getting RJ Barrett. You are out of the Zion sweepstakes because the Pelicans are not letting Zion slip through their hands. It's not happening. Knicks fans everywhere are just like they're mourning today. You had Stephen A. Smith walk off the set of ESPN's First Take show. Michael Rappaport, all the famous New York sports fans and Knicks fans, they're grieving today, man. It's like a loved one died because they did not get Zion Williamson. And what's funny about the whole thing is that you wanted a Duke athlete, which is what Zion Williams is. But the Duke athlete that New York sports got was the quarterback, Daniel Jones. Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness. That's like he was supposed to go to Jarrett's, but he ended up going to Walmart. Holy crap. It is what it is, man. But Pelicans got the number 1 pick. Grizzlies came in at number 2. Of course, the Knicks got 3. But the most surprising to me, wasn't the Knicks not getting number 1. The Pelicans getting number 1. It was the Lakers at the 4th pick. I didn't think the Lakers would be able to would get a pick that high. So now they have even more, more assets to trade in order to acquire another superstar for LeBron James and get this playoff run and championship run started. Because the championship is coming to LA. LeBron James, a.k.a. the GOAT, is bringing a championship to LA over the next 3 years. It's happening. So now with that pick, now you take a young player, a new young player, or you take that pick and you go trade for a superstar. But back to the Pelicans. Now, man, the Pelicans are in the proverbial catbird seat. And the catbird seat, as explained by Shannon Sharp, is an advantageous position. So now you have Anthony Davis, and you have the rights to draft Zion Williamson #1 overall. Life just got a lot better in New Orleans. Now, if this was under the old regime, which was Will Demps, then I would say it really doesn't matter what you have because you are inept and you won't get this right. But now with new GM David Griffin, the former GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers who won the championship with them back in 2016, David Griffin is going to get it right. So if I'm the Pelicans, honestly, I draft Zion Williamson, of course, and I offer Anthony Davis the max deal. And I build around those two as my centerpieces. Now, if Anthony Davis is bent on not being there, and at his last game during the regular season, he wore a shirt that said, "That's all, folks," which is a throwback to an old cartoon. Matter of fact, if you know what cartoon that is from, message me and you will get fire sauce packets from Taco Bell. But if I'm Anthony Davis and I don't want to be there, I go to him and tell him to trade me. David Griffin is going to find a trade partner. He's not going to be like Will Demps, who Will Demps fired himself because he should have taken the deal that the LA Lakers had on the table, and we wouldn't have went through all this mess with the rift in the locker room, with the players being mad that Magic and Pelinka and supposedly LeBron were going to trade him to New Orleans for Anthony Davis. Boo-hoo, sad story. It is what it is. It's a business. You got to grow up. But if that offer from LA is still on the table, David Griffin is going to take that. Could you imagine? You'll have your #1 pick, Zion Williamson, with Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, and Lonzo Ball. Dude, I like that group already. And all I'm giving up is Anthony Davis. I like that group already. And if I'm the Lakers, I might throw in the 4th pick. Although it might be a bit much, but this is Anthony Davis. So I'll probably go ahead and throw it in there. But now this affects the New York Knicks the most. Because New York Knicks get the #1 pick. They take Zion Williamson. Now you have a building block to build around. Now New York is a little bit more attractive to top free agents. Now supposedly Kevin Durant is all but a lock to go to New York to play for the Knicks. And I've heard it so much till I'm starting to think that pretty much that's where he's going to go. And supposedly him and Kyrie was supposed to be teaming up, and then you would have had Zion Williamson there. But now there is no Zion Williamson, and there will be no Anthony Davis because you don't have any assets to trade to them to get Anthony Davis. Or at least whatever you can put together won't be better than what Boston can put together or the Lakers can put together. So it's not happening. But Kevin Durant and maybe Kyrie, I'll take them all day. But if you don't come out of this if you come out of this and you don't have Zion Williamson, Kevin Durant, or Kyrie, I feel for you, New York fans. I really, really do. The franchise has been inept for a very, very long time. And the hits just keep coming, it seems like. My condolences. Enough about New York. I almost forgot. But I have to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers hiring former Indiana Pacer and Orlando Magic head coach Frank Vogel. I really don't understand the hire. I don't get it. There were so many more candidates out there that were suited for this job, and they settled for Frank Vogel because only Frank Vogel was going to agree to the terms that they had. Number one, they were shortchanging people on the amount of years that they were going to give them. They only wanted to do a 3-year deal where pretty much the standard is 5 years. So that's number one. Then number two, you got to take Jason Kidd on as an assistant on your staff, and you got to take on Kurt Rambis. And the guys who had options, or the guys, who were better than Frank Vogel, all was like, nah, I'm good. I'll stay where I'm at. I mean, what? Monty Williams, who's highly respected, said, nah. Juwan Howard was like, no. And Ty Lue, which was the most egregious because out of all those guys, Ty Lue has won a title. He's won a championship, people. You don't want to give him 5 years, and then you want to have him hire his staff for him? That's a slap in the face. It's disrespectful. You should have just left them alone. It's like SZA, one of my favorite R&B artists. She said, why you bothering me when you know you don't want me? Why'd you even bother Ty Lue? Why did you even interview him? You did that to appease LeBron, probably. But dude, come on. You settled with Frank Vogel. Now, I've heard that LeBron likes Frank Vogel because Frank is a tactician and he respects Vogel from the time when he was in Miami and Vogel was with Indiana. And they had some epic battles with the Indiana Pacers in that 4-year stretch LeBron played in Miami. So, okay, I get it. But the Lakers are looking like hot garbage right now. I was watching Undisputed with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. And Shannon was like, the only person in the Lakers organization that are good at their job right now is LeBron James. That's it. And I have to tend to agree. Everything else is subpar. P-O-S. This is embarrassing, LA. Only thing that LA has going for them right now is LeBron and the fact that they're the LA Lakers. Everything else doesn't really matter at this point, or it's not attractive right now. Because obviously Jeannie Buss seems to be in over her head. Rob Pelinka's not good at his job. Then you hire Frank Vogel, who was awful in Orlando before he came there. And then you hire Jason Kidd as an assistant who has some off-the-court issues. And you interviewed Jason Kidd, but when you saw the backlash you got from interviewing him, you go, no, it really wasn't an interview. It was, I guess, a consulting meeting or whatever. And you're going to bring him on as an assistant coach and not hire him as the head coach. They really wanted to hire Jason Kidd as the head coach. But once the backlash started, they came up off it very quickly. And now the minority owners of the Lakers have an issue with Jeannie Buss. I mean, she's no better than her brother who she fired. But all of this will go away if they can acquire another superstar and they win. Winning is the best deodorant. It's going to cover up all the funk. It's going to cover up all the funk. If they're able to win going forward, this last couple of weeks for them is going to be in the rearview mirror. People are going to forget about it. There was a time when the Lakers were inept and they weren't good, and Jeannie Buss was terrible and Pelinka was terrible, and Magic quit on them in the middle of the night. People are going to forget about it. But you have to win. And your best start right now is the fact that you have LeBron James. Don't mess that up, LA. Oh, one last thing about that. Why hasn't Mark Jackson gotten another chance at being the head coach? He constructed the Golden State Warriors. They have nothing without their start from Mark Jackson. No disrespect to Steve Kerr, but all Steve Kerr did was get in the Lambo and drive at 95 with the top down. Mark Jackson constructed this in the shop. He put it together and he bred those players. They aren't who they are today without Mark Jackson. He hasn't gotten another head coaching job. I even heard about him interviewing for a job. Now, it's one thing if he's not interested in coaching right now. Okay, if that's the case, I get that. But that's not what I've heard. What I've heard that he hasn't gotten another shot. And that's absolutely egregious. you have coaches who are nowhere near as talented at coaching as Mark Jackson, and they get chance after chance after chance. Dude, Luke Walton wasn't even unemployed for a full 48 hours before he got another job. And he flamed out in LA. But we know what that's about. We know. Now we're going to stay in the NBA, and we're going to talk NBA playoffs. I watched Portland get blew off the floor the other night. Well, no, not the other night. That was last night. Got absolutely demolished by the Golden State Warriors. And, of course, Golden State is going to win that series. The best chance the Trailblazers have of even sticking around is if they win Game 2. You got to steal that Game 2 in Oracle. If not, you're probably going to get swept. Now, I'll give them a game on their floor when they go back to Portland. But it's probably going to end up being a gentleman's sweep 4-1 if you don't get this Game 2 in Oracle. You have to. Now, tonight is Game 1, the Toronto Raptors and the Milwaukee Bucks. I watched the Raptors in that Game 7 against the 76ers, and I thought the 76ers was going to take it. I was like, the Raptors have let go of the wheel, and they're going to allow the 76ers to win this game. And Kawhi Leonard hit this shot from the corner with Joel Embiid in his face, and it like bounced 14 times on the rim and then finally went in. I mean, the ball bounced on the rim so long, I was able to go to the restroom, fix a sandwich, grab a beer out the fridge, mow the lawn, and then come back and sit down. And then the ball went through the hoop. And old Kawhi is back, man. He looks like pre-injury Kawhi. You know, before he pretty much missed significant time, you know, over the last couple of years with various injuries. And dude is great. But now they're going to run into a buzzsaw in Milwaukee because it's just Kawhi. I mean, his sidekick, Kyle Lowry, I mean, what more can you say about Kyle Lowry? Kyle Lowry in the regular season is a good player. He's a all-star. But in the playoffs, Kyle Lowry is absolutely terrible. I mean, dude, this is the same Kyle Lowry who left the game against Cleveland because he needed to decompress because they were getting spanked. And then last year, when LeBron and that terrible Cleveland team swept them, he was awful. Absolutely awful. He shrinks in the moment. Absolutely shrinks. I take on the flip side with Steph Curry. Steph Curry doesn't shrink in those moments. He just doesn't play well. But Kyle Lowry literally shrinks. If he started the game at 6'4", he ended the game at 5'10". He shrinks. But now you got Milwaukee. And you got my man, the MVP of the NBA this year. At least he should be anyway. Giannis Antetokounmpo, sidekick Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe, Malcolm Brogdon. It won't be a sweep, of course, but I give Toronto a game or two. I will say, okay, I won't be disrespectful to Toronto because when you go to Canada, it's different up there when you go there and play. So I would give them 2 games. I would say Milwaukee wins this series in 6 games. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a gentleman's sweep and it's 4-1 and they win in 5. But I won't be disrespectful. They will win in 6 games. Now, of course, I can't forget to mention the Houston Rockets. Rocket fans, especially the ones on Twitter. Shut up. Shut up. I don't want to hear it anymore. Yo, you like Kevin Hart's dad. Kevin Hart's dad got beat up by the dude, Steve. And he's like, dude, after that, there's nothing my dad could tell me. He's like, my dad would tell me, hey, Kevin, didn't I tell you to take this trash out? Get the trash out before I crack your face. Kevin told his dad, he's like, shut up. You take the trash out before I get Steve to come over here and put his hands on you again. Kevin's dad's like, oh, so you gonna call Steve, huh? You are something else. You know that? You are really something else. Give it the trash. I'll take it out. Give it the trash. He's like, my dad didn't want to see Steve no more. Steve beat the hell out of my dad. And Houston Rockets, that's Golden State Warriors for y'all. Shut up before I get the Golden State Warriors to come over here and crack your face. Kevin Durant left game 5. I think it was like 8 minutes left in the game. And your superstar, your supposed MVP, James Harden, took one shot in the last 7-8 minutes of that game. And you lost. Then in game 6, you're up by 7 going into the 4th with no KD. And you lost. Again. I don't want to hear it anymore, Houston. You've been obsessing over Golden State so much. It's time to let it go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time once again. It's time to go. Time for me to wrap it up. I'm done today being your friendly neighborhood podcaster. Just over this journey, this is my 11th episode. And, during my editing and listening to it and just my improvement from show to show, perfecting my craft, getting better. That's what it's all about. I mean, I love doing this. So if I never make money doing this, if I never get famous doing this, if nothing ever comes of it, but just me putting out this content and being happy about it and enjoying doing it, that's all that matters to me. Because friends, family, people that I'm close to, they've heard it, they liked it, but validation from other people don't matter to me. I want this to be good to me. It doesn't have to be good to me, anybody else. But I'm going to continue to work on this, continue to work on my craft, and get better every day at doing this. Because this is something I absolutely love to do. Talk sports in my sleep. But thank you guys for all your support. Please like, subscribe, and share. Soon I'm going to be getting some guests on here so somebody, can go back and forth and debate. We'll see how that goes. And also want to do some interviews in the near future. I talked about it before, but definitely that is on the way. But until next time, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.